Hello, everybody. This is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat here to discuss the 49ers day 3 of the NFL draft. Went off today. Pretty good day for the 49ers overall. They had 6 picks, and once those 6 picks have come off the board, now they're in the process of signing their undrafted free agents. Who, when you look at the names already on between the picks today and what you've seen in the undrafted free agency, I think there are some folks who did mock drafts over the last few weeks that are going to be happy with what the 49ers have done at points today. Before I get too far along, though, I want to shout out a few folks that are in the comment section. Raphael5629 says, "What's up, Jack and everyone? Good to have you on board, Raphael." Same with Adrian. He says, "What's up, Jack and everyone else? Good to see you." Raphael also says, "Hit that like button, everyone." Yes, please don't forget to do that. We have Sam. It's going to be a good day. We're going to have fun here. What up, Niner fan from Sports Fan? Russell James with the wave, and then Gray says, "Sup, Jack," as well. Right now, so far, by my count, Raphael says there's 5 that have signed. By my count, I'm up to 6. There was another one that was signed. Real quick, the undrafted free agent guys that I have. If you guys see other names come through, please hit up the comment section. But right now, the undrafted free agents would be Jason Poe, the extremely athletic offensive lineman from Mercer. A lot of people thought he would be taken in round 6 or 7, maybe even as high as round 5. The 49ers met with him during the top 30 visits. He signed with the 49ers as an undrafted free agent. They've grabbed a pair of wide receivers, Tate Martin out of Oklahoma State and Tasir Mack from Pitt. Mack was actually one of the top targets of Kenny Pickett, who was the only quarterback to go in the first round this year. They also signed a pair of linebackers, one Jeremiah Gemmel, from UNC. That's North Carolina. And then Sagun Alubi. Sorry, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that last name. He's from San Diego State, and then they also have Taylor Hawkins, who's a cornerback from San Diego State. So right now we're up to 6 undrafted free agents that the 49ers assigned. And like I said, if you see some other names that pop up, please hit in the comment section, and I'll throw those out as well. Trying to keep track of all the comings and goings so far in the draft, and then post draft. As far as today. Yesterday we saw the 49ers pick up a speedy pass rusher in Drake Jackson. Then they went with a pounding running back in Tyrion Davis-Price. And then they finished up yesterday with a speedy wideout in Danny Gray at 105. The 49ers today, they kicked it off going at 106 at 134 with offensive lineman Spencer Burford from University of Texas San Antonio. The 49ers they always look for versatility in their linemen, especially those that they take in the middle to later rounds of the draft. And that's exactly what they're going to get out of Burford here. He's a long-arm prospect who many draft analysts projected as a guard into the NFL. The 49ers, both Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said as much as well, that they expect Burford to be more of a guard in their system, but he also could play tackle. So he's going to be a little bit of a swing guy there. And when you look at Kyle Shanahan's running offenses, they primarily focus on outside zone, and that's a style that fits Burford's play really well. And it's was a staple of the Texas San Antonio offense. So he's very good at that. In the run game, Burford, he moves well. He shows explosiveness into defenders when pulling along the line. And he also has the ability to climb up to the second level, which is important on those zone run schemes to be able to get upfield and get to those linebackers and catch those backers as they're coming across. He's also really good at cutting off that backside. So really good in the run game. And then in pass protection, he's good there as well. For the most part, he has long arms, which really allow him to strike pass rushers first. He's really good with his hands. If you look at his film, you're going to see an offensive lineman. What I saw when I looked at him quickly was that he has the ability he has a nasty streak in him. And some of the things that I saw him doing on this highlight clip, at least, are very similar or reminiscent of what we see from Trent Williams, that, where the rusher gets into him, he strikes him and just throws him to the ground. And we see that out of Burford on his film a little bit as well. And then the other thing here is with San Francisco, they have both their center and guard positions up for grabs. It seems like Jaylen Moore probably going to be moving into the right guard spot. I think Daniel Brunskill might be sliding over to center. Aaron Banks possibly going to left guard, replacing Tomlinson. So you're going to have a lot of movement along that offensive line this year to start the season as the 49ers figure that out and everybody starts to fit in. And Burford's versatility is something that's going to allow them to use him in multiple areas. And he might be the swing guard, swing tackle. When I first saw this pick, the thought that came to me was that this might signal that Jaylen Moore is going to be starting along the offensive line, and so they're not going to have that swing tackle anymore, and they're going to look to replace him, and that's where Burford comes in. And another thing to think about too is Mike McGlinchey is not signed beyond 2022. His contract is only for this year. He's playing on the 5th-year option, so he's not signed for 2023. And also Trent Williams, he has a $10 million option bonus for next year. If the 49ers were to pick that up, it locks him in for the remainder of his contract as well. So, this is a pick that's kind of interesting with the 49ers future. And, I think that Burford sets them up good for now as far as depth, and then a possible starter down the road. So we'll see how that all plays out for the 49ers. But that's Spencer Burford was the selection at 134. Like that pick, thought it was a good one. Really good stuff out of him. Let's see, just taking a look. Why would OBJ do that? Because him and Deebo Samuel have been messing around together for a while, going back a few days. So I think that's why he put that out there, just trying to get at Deebo a little bit. Let's see, and then I'm going to jump over now to the next pick that they had at number 172. And this is where things got a little bit different. The 49ers, this is an interesting pick at 172. The 49ers went cornerback Samuel Womack out of Toledo. This is an interesting one. This actually is now 2 years in a row that the 49ers at pick 172 have gone cornerback. Last year, they selected Diamondo Lenore with pick 172. This year, it's Womack. These guys are both similar size, too. They're both 5'10". Lenore was about 200 pounds. Womack's closer to 195, 190, a little bit smaller in terms of the weight. But Womack is a super athletic. He's a really quick player, quick twitch kind of guy, but he has a physical style of play at the line of scrimmage. He's really good with his hands. He shows that ability to jab receivers at the line, kind of get them off base, and then run with them down the field. And that's a trait that he's going to need playing in the slot, is that ability to get his hands on the man, redirect him, and not allow that guy to get up the field and get into his body. And that's something that Womack showed pretty well. He was a long-term starter with Toledo. He actually holds the record for the Toledo Rockets with 39 pass breakups in his career. He's led Toledo in that stat each of the last 3 seasons. When Womack gets here, one of the interesting pieces about Womack is he actually has some familiar faces here in Santa Clara, including current cornerback Ambry Thomas. Thomas and Womack played at rival high schools, and they've kept in touch. Womack actually sent a congratulatory text to Thomas following Thomas's interception that sealed the 49ers' Week 18 victory over the Rams. And then in addition to Thomas, Womack will have his former Toledo teammate Kadar Homan, who the 49ers signed back in February, that he's going to be without here. So there's a few guys that know him that'll be teammates of Womack when he gets out here. So that's an easy piece for him to transition, for him to step in and be ready to go. It's likely that you're going to see a competition between Womack, Diamondo Lenore, Darquez Denard, Dante Johnson. Those would be your 4 guys that I think you're going to see battling out for that slot cornerback role. With Womack also contributing on special teams. But I think it's really going to be between Lenore and Denard, along with Womack for that starting slot corner role. Johnson is more of a kind of do everything kind of guy. So I'm not sure if the 49ers are going to want to have him locked into a starting spot or not. So that'll be an interesting one to see how it works out. Tony asks, how much did the Patriots drafting Cole Strange upset the center market? I don't know if it upset it too much. I think one of the things I noticed with a lot of players that we saw, if you did the mock drafts and you've been playing around with those, you notice where guys were going a little bit higher than some guys were lower than others. I don't think it messed it up too much. I think it was pretty similar to what people felt would happen, especially with the quarterbacks not going. I think there were some folks that thought the quarterbacks would go earlier than they did, and I think that more than anything kind of changed where guys were going. So we'll see how that turns out. I think the 49ers are happy with what they have along the offensive line. They either are going to be adding another guy, or there's a lot of different directions that they can take there at center. Does Alex Mack come back? We'll find that out here shortly, I believe. If he doesn't, do they go out and sign J.C. Treader, who was a guy who played all 17 games last year, but also wasn't practicing during the season? Does he step in and does he become the starting center? Or do the 49ers just go ahead and run out what they have? Daniel Brunskill and Jake Brendel as your starters, and maybe having the undrafted free agent Jason Poe that we talked about being another guy that can learn to play center. It's going to be an interesting piece. I feel like what this draft showed, though, is that the 49ers are more confident in a couple of areas than most analysts and fans. I've been saying it for a little while, though, that I feel like the 49ers are comfortable with their offensive line as far as their starting group. My opinion didn't change at all throughout this draft, and that's part of why I don't have a big problem with it. Oh, that's a really good one right there. That's a really good signing by the 49ers. Leon O'Neal from Texas A&M. This is a guy who a lot early on was expected to go as high as round 4. He continued to slide down the boards. At one point at the end of the week, it looked like he was going to be a 6th round pick, and the 49ers are going to be able to pick up a really good safety here as a undrafted free agent. So really good signing right there for the 49ers. They've picked up a couple of guys. If you've been following my mock drafts, I had Jason Poe and Leon O'Neal in multiple mock drafts that I did, and those are two really nice signings for the 49ers as undrafted free agents. You add that to what they did in the draft, and this is a pretty good group. Like that one. That's a good one. Thank you, Raphael, for throwing that up there for me. And then just getting back to the draft itself, so there's the Womack pick, Womack, Lenore, Denard. That's going to be your group competing for the for that slot cornerback role with the 49ers in 2022. Then they go to round 6, and in round 6 they have pick 187. This was a little bit of an interesting one, just from the standpoint of, you could see at this point it seemed like the 49ers started to transition to a little bit more of a best player available scenario. Nick Zackel from Fordham, I believe that's how you say his name. He was a 4-year starter there, and he was projected to be taken in round 5 or 6. So for the 49ers to get him in round 6, that's good value. At Fordham, Zackel played in a zone-based running scheme, which will help his transition to the NFL. Shown him some issues with getting to one issue that he has in his game is with some of the zone stuff is the reach blocks, like getting from the tackle spot down to the 3 technique. That's a long ways to go. He struggled a little bit with those reach blocks, but that's not something that he's going to have to do if he's playing inside at guard. It's going to be a little bit different for him. And the 49ers expect Zackel, along with Burford, both the guys that they drafted today, to be competing as more along the interior of their offensive line. At the guard spots is where they project them more often. But other than that, he just needs to really work on keeping his pad level down, and that's going to help him get on the field. Because this is the guy in Zackel. This is somebody who was actually invited to the Senior Bowl, played at the Senior Bowl, did well. That's where he caught the attention of the 49ers. And when you watch him, he's really strong in pass protection. He has great athleticism, really good feet, long arms that allows him to mirror pass rushers and really to ride them up and around past the quarterback, which is something that you do more as a tackle than as a guard, but it'll come in handy for him down there as well. In 758 pass blocking snaps over the last 3 seasons, Zackel's only allowed 4 sacks and 3 quarterback hits. So he's done a good job of helping to keep the quarterback clean. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. The 49ers needed to improve their pass rush, their pass blocking, and this might be a solid backup. I think you're going to see a lot of competition amongst the 49ers interior offensive linemen throughout camp, and really those your starters at right tackle and left tackle are pretty much going to, those left tackle, is going to be Trent Williams. McGlinchey, if he's healthy, is going to be the guy at right tackle. But those other spots, and there's going to be some really strong battles going on in camp. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The offensive line battle that you see go on, and then also that defensive line. That's going to be a lot of fun watching those one-on-one drills during training camp, and then how they work against each other in the team periods as well. And this is, again, like I said, I just got done mentioning it. You have some good competition there with Banks and Moore, McKivitz, Keaton Sutherland, who the team signed, and now you have Burford and Zackel to fill in there. So that's a really top-notch offensive line group that the 49ers are setting into training camp. Yeah, it's Zackel. You don't say the J is silent in his name. So I think the reason that O'Neal Slade, I think, has more to do with his speed. He's a really instinctive player. He can run sideline to sideline, but he's limited a little bit to the box safety role, but he can play up top as well. When I read the scouting report on Leon O'Neal, the guy that reminded me of was Jaquaski Tart. Now we'll see what happens with him. But I just feel like this is a good signing for the 49ers to pick this guy up after the draft, bring him in, and really a nice depth piece, I believe. Then we get into Noah. Hey, how you doing? And then we get into. Okay, real quick, got to jump up here. Noah Johnson says, Jack, would you be comfortable with Brunskill at center? I would not. I'm okay with Brunskill at center. We saw him play there in 2020, made 8 starts there. That was a team that I think if they had a better quarterback situation, I think they would have been able to make it through that whole situation a little bit better. So, Brunskill's more of a guard, more of a tackle. If he has to play center, I think the 49ers would be okay. I would rather them get Alex Mack back. I would have rather seen them get somebody that was a little bit more long-term. Even last year, I talked about it quite a bit. So we'll see how that one works out. It's going to be I understand the hesitation there. A lot of that hesitation comes back to 2020 and how bad the team was that year. And they weren't very good with him in there. So. So you're the last Jay, and your name is not science. So you are not Noah Onston. You are Johnston. Okay. and like Tobin says, JC Treader might be an option there too, as well in free agency. As I mentioned, he was injured off and on last year and wasn't practicing during the regular season. He was just playing in the game. So it'll be interesting to see if the Niners go that direction. It seems like they feel like they have a plan in place. Yeah, but you know how plans are. Plans are only good until you get punched in the mouth, and then you actually got to figure out what you're doing, and we'll see how it works out for the 49ers. Then they get to 220 at the end of round 6. They get their 2 comp picks. The first one is a really nice pick, I think. You get at 220, they went with defensive lineman Kalia Davis from University of South Central Florida from UCF, and this is a pick that I really like. This is a guy in Davis. You have a guy who was a linebacker in high school who transitioned from that down into the defensive line when he got to Central Florida. In high school, this is a guy who put up 107 tackles in his senior season, 9 sacks, 2 interceptions. Transitions to the D line there at the UCF. Played all 13 games in 2019, making 9 starts. He ended up with 18 quarterback hurries to go along with 4 sacks. When you watch this guy, he looks like a big defensive tackle, but he moves like a linebacker. You see the explosiveness off the ball. He's he's an explosive 3 technique, and he flashes some moves that are similar to DJ Jones, but a little more agility. You see that his ability to chase plays down from behind. You see that speed allowing him to go sideline to sideline. The issue and the question that you have with Davis comes back to health. He had that strong season in 2019, Then you have 2020, which is the COVID year. He decides to sit out, comes back this year, and only 5 games into the season, he tears his ACL. Um, so that's a pretty big bummer there. He was able to record 1 sack, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hurries prior to the injury. So, as long as he's healthy and he's able to roll in, I think you're going to see a little bit of a slow start for him in training camp over the summertime here, getting into training camp to get him in full shape. If he's ready to go and he's right, I think this is a guy who maybe not this year, but in 2023 might be able to be a big player for the 49ers. And that works out pretty well with some of the moves that they have there along the defensive line. The pairing of Davis, if he works out, along with Drake Jackson, gives the 49ers a couple of defensive linemen to build around, especially with a group that has a lot of guys that have been signed to 1-year contracts or in the final year of their contract. And then you get to 221, and they went with this is another one where I think it's a best player available type of thing. Tariq Castro Fields from Penn State. Castro Fields is a guy who he was a Senior Bowl participant as well this year. Played in all 12 games in 2021, but he's only able to play in 3 in 2020 due to injury. Missed 6. He has the size. The thing with Castro Fields is he has all the measurables. When you look at the guy, he looks the part. When you look at his relative athletic score, I think it's called, he jumps off the charts. He's one of the highest. He's almost at a 10. The highest score you can get is a 10, and I think he's around like 9.75 or in that ballpark. So he looks the part. Everything about him looks fantastic except for his productivity on the field. He just doesn't quite have the ball skills that you look for in a cornerback. He has a tendency to bite on some double moves. This is one of those things where he's more of an outside corner. This is one where the 49ers appear pretty set with Travis Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, and Ambry Thomas. But Castro Fields is a guy who might be able to compete his way onto the roster. If not, he'll be on the practice squad, I believe, or somewhere along those lines. But this is the guy who has really high, how many times did you watch the draft and you hear this comment I'm just about to say? Tariq Castro Fields is a guy that has huge upside, big upside with this guy. That's one of those things that if you're following the draft and you're doing a drinking game and you do upside as your where you have to take a hit every time you hear upside, you're going to be under the table by about 3 picks into the first round. So, but that's where this guy is. He's a high upside cornerback who, to this point, hasn't fulfilled the the ability level that he should be able to. He hasn't reached the level that his measurables would lead you to believe that he could. So that's a little bit of a problem for the 49ers at that spot with Tariq Castro Fields. And then that brings us to pick 262. And this is my favorite pick of the draft. After the Castro Fields, there was a little bit of a break there. And I got to admit, I was looking at, kind of reflecting on the way that this draft had gone. And up to that point, I wasn't too happy with the draft. And a lot of the reason I wasn't happy with the draft is because none of the guys that I selected in my mock drafts was showing up. I had all these guys that I thought were really good players and they weren't getting taken. And so I was pretty frustrated with it. And then lo and behold, the 49ers get to Mr. Irrelevant there at 262. And voila, they get Brock Purdy, the quarterback out of Iowa State. Is this guy Tom Brady 2.0? No, I'm joking a little bit with that. But here's the thing with Purdy. I would say that he would be reminiscent of a Nick Mullins type of player. Doesn't have the big arm. Was Purdy, he was a 4-year starter at Iowa State, and he was he put up some good numbers. He was productive. Did some really good things there. Just like I said, he doesn't have the arm strength. They kind of hit all the areas of the field, so he's a little bit limited. But he's really good off of play action. He's really good over the middle of the field. The lack of arm strength, being good off of play action, and good over the middle of the field, that sounds quite a bit like Nick Mullins, if you ask me. And this is a guy who, he's had to compete all his life. He wasn't highly recruited. But but he was able to get himself to Iowa State and become a 4-year starter. Having that same issue here with the NFL, not how they thought of, but he's been given a chance here by the 49ers. And this is a guy who, I don't know if he makes the roster this year, but I think like Cal says, he is pretty damn good, pretty darn good, excuse me. I think that this is a nice pickup for the 49ers at 262. So pretty good start for the 49ers this offseason with this draft class. I felt the other thing that I was going to say was there was a point there as well around the 4th round before Burford's name come up that I was thinking going punter there at 134 would have made perfect sense for the 49ers given the way they attacked free agency. In that the punter would have been Areza, who ended up going in the 6th round. So it would have definitely been an overdraft and a bad selection by Jack Hammer for that if I was the GM today. David Wilson says, why did the 49ers always draft one side of the line and then try to make those players switch sides? It doesn't make sense. It's not easy. And I agree with you. That is an interesting problem to have, especially, but I think that's why I don't know if they necessarily pick guys that they expect to have to switch that are going to be starting. I know that was the thought process amongst the fans and journalists last year was the selection of Aaron Banks meant that he was going to be starting at right guard. And they had him over there a little bit, but they also had him at left guard. And I think more than anything, Banks was a guy who really the 49ers weren't expecting to be a starter for him in 2021. I feel like they went into that season last year with Daniel Brunskill penciled in as the starter, and he was going to be that starter at right guard. And more than anything, this, the Banks thing is it allows him to kind of learn both sides. It's going to make him better. I know that was something that we heard last year for the top pick from Oregon that went to Detroit was, he's a guy, he had struggled with the transition over the right side, and they moved him back to the left later on, and he performed really well on the left side. And then once the starter came back, he's transitioned back over to the right side and did well. And it was kind of a situation where he had practiced over there. When he went back to his left side, it was like going back home. And then when he had to go back to the right side, well, at least at that point, he knew what to expect and was better off for it. So that might be what we see with Aaron Banks. Jaylen Moore, we've already seen him have the ability to play both sides. He was on the left side throughout college, was decent for the 49ers at right tackle. He needs to improve a little bit as well. So that'll be something interesting to a storyline to follow will be what happens with Banks and Moore. That's going to be for sure something that we're going to have to follow this once the OTAs and everything starts. And like Randall says here, smash that like button, please, if you could. Go ahead and hit the like button. If you're on the channel for the first time or you aren't already subscribed, if you could please hit that subscribe button, that would be fantastic. Hit the bell notification as well so you don't ever miss it when we go live. The way you can catch it while we're here, and you can come in and participate in the comments and have fun with all that the way it goes. Also, get yourself over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. The last few days, but I've written more articles over there this last 3 days than I usually do in a week. Trying to get that out, but information out on the draft and the picks. So get yourselves over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com over at the Santa Rosa Press Democrat site. Check it out and would appreciate it. Jaheim, thank you for the donation. And also, real quick, before I go too far, I'm not sure if I said it, but David, thank you for the donation as well. But he asks, can you break down Gray versus Austin and why San Francisco picked him? I think the reason that the 49ers liked Gray, and when I looked at his scouting report, watched him on film a little bit, this is a guy who has the ability to take the top off of a defense and be a deep threat that can stretch the field. At the NFL level, I'm not sure how much you're going to see Gray be able to win down the sidelines on deep routes, but this is a guy who can get to all three levels of the field with his speed. He's going to have the ability to be used in the running game a little bit on the jet sweeps and those types of things. He showed that versatility at Dallas. He has that ability. He's a good receiver with he does a good job of finding the soft spot in zones, sitting down, making the catch. On top of that, he's a guy who, the only really, when you watch Gray, the only thing that's a negative about him is he does have some drop issues every once in a while. He struggles. He has some concentration drops where he just doesn't look the ball into his eyes. Sometimes those are on the in-breaking routes. So that's a little bit Dante Pettis sounding, but I don't want to throw that on him just yet. But I think this is a good selection for the 49ers right here at the end of round 3 there at 105. This is a guy who has that speed, and you put him out there with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings, and you have a really good mix of receivers right there, really good playmakers. He doesn't have the size in terms like of a Deebo in terms of the thickness and the muscle mass in his lower half, but he has that ability to make some plays. And I think if Gray had been at SMU throughout, I think he would have put up big numbers. This is a guy who in Danny Gray who had to go the JUCO route. He played junior college ball as a freshman and sophomore, and then got to SMU, and it took him. It's a little bit of a transition going from. It's a big transition going from high school to college. He gets a little bit of a step up going to junior college, but it's a big step from there to the FCS level or FBS level, excuse me. And I would say that, it just took him a little bit of time, but he continued to grow throughout the year last year. And I think Danny Gray is going to be a really nice addition for the 49ers. He can even return kicks as well. So this is going to be a fun one to watch. Yeah, I agree with you there, Moses. You're saying that the thoughts on the DBs that you give them a C plus. You like the potential. I think with both of the cornerbacks that they have in Castro Fields and in Samuel Womack, I think you've got guys who have NFL qualities, but it's going to be a big step up for them. I just find it interesting because one of the things that we all went through this process leading up to the draft, and one of the things that we all kept talking about was the 49ers need to find a slot corner, and they wait till round 5 to get one. And I tweeted this out today, and I think it's appropriate, is that the 49ers value for slot corners, nickel corners, is not that of people outside the organization, fans, journalists, content creators, whatever you want to call everybody. Not trying to single anybody out, but just when you look at it, the 49ers just don't put a value on that cornerback position quite like some people outside of the organization do. And they showed that. They've now gone with trying to find their slot corner out of the back-to-back years, guys that are picked in 172. That's why I think you're going to see Lenore and Womack battle for that spot. They when they signed K'Wan Williams hadn't even played the season before. Nobody around the 49ers who really, fans who, unless you really studied it or looked it up, knew anything about who this guy was. And that, now he's not here any longer. But the 49ers have the way that they run their defense. That slot corner is important, but doesn't have to be the most athletic, the best player on the field, which is why they wait so long they've waited so long the last couple of years to get there. David then says, to add, if no switch is made, only comp is left guard, no right guard. And you're right. Both the guys that they drafted last year played on the left side of the offensive line. Aaron Banks was a left guard, and Jaylen Moore had played left tackle at Michigan, Western Michigan there. So you're right from that standpoint. They had to make the switch. This next year will be interesting too, because again, you're looking at two guys that were drafted, both that played left tackle, right? Burford was a left tackle at UTSA, and Zach Ho was a left tackle at Fordham, although Burford moved around and also played on the other side. So interesting pickup right there. As far as my favorite pick, when I go back and I look in this draft, if we're being serious, I had said earlier Brock Purdy, that was a joke just because that was the only guy that they took off of my mock drafts, and they took him in the same spot. But for me, my favorite draft pick goes back to yesterday, and the pick um, at 61. Drake Jackson falling to the 49ers is a nice uh, was a nice pickup for them. Um, I felt like the 49ers were going to add a speed rusher off the edge. I didn't think it was going to be Drake Jackson at 61. I didn't think he was going to be there. But this is a guy who has extreme speed off the edge, a 4.5 40 guy who can, blow around guys. He has the strength to get up into him. He can actually even run inside. He can pass rush up inside as well. This is a guy who has a lot of things, versatility to his game. And on top of that, as a former linebacker / outside, defensive end, Jackson has the ability to draw back if they want to run some of their zone schemes. And we've seen the 49ers try to do that a little bit, where they with their edge guys, dropping them into coverage with a zone blitz and somebody else coming, and that guy not be able to keep up with them. I don't think that'll be the case with Jackson. Jackson's got some speed that those other guys didn't have, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching what Drake Jackson does. My least favorite pick would probably be the Tyrion Davis Price pick at 93. I felt like the 49ers needed to add a running back in this draft, but they needed to get a running back that was a home run hitter. And instead what they got is a guy that gives them everything they already have. Tyrion Davis Price is a big guy who can run inside between the tackles. He's going to pound his way through there, does a good job of with his jump cuts and things like that. He does a good job of running behind his pads, which allows him to run through contact. That's all stuff that I saw last year out of Elijah Mitchell, that I saw out of Elijah Mitchell back in camp. And part of why I was so impressed with him during training camp, compared to the other guys. And I just don't see the upside with Price in terms of that breakaway ability that allows you not to have to use Deebo Samuel as your running back. Because Deebo Samuel, if he's truly upset with how much the 49ers used him as a running back, that all goes back to the fact that the 49ers didn't have a running back that could break it. Mitchell is a good back. He's going to give you 4.6 yards per carry, but that's because he's got one carry that's at 6 yards and the next one's at 2, and then he has one at 5, and then he's at 3, and it's, but and every once in a while he rips off a 10, and for every 10-yard one that he rips off, there's a gain of 1 or 2. He's not a breakaway threat that is going to, when he's in the open field, is going to get there. And just watching a little bit of film on Davis Price this morning, you see him break through the line against Alabama and get run down by a cornerback from behind, and they get stopped short of the goal line and end up turning the ball over and don't even score. So the Davis Price one is the head scratcher to me. I know a lot of people are pretty high on it. I had the 49ers taking a running back when I did my mock a couple of weeks ago here on this channel. I had the 49ers taking a running back at 105. So taking a running back at 93 wasn't my issue with it. It's the player. I don't have a problem with the 49ers taking a running back. It's just the player there. So Raphael 5629er asks, does the signing of center Donovan West indicate Mack is going to retire? Is this it looks like he might have been an undrafted free agent signing for the 49ers. Let me see. I'm not sure who that is. Sorry. Yeah, so it looks like the 49ers were able to get Donovan West, who was, I believe, the center from Arizona State, if I'm correct. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, yeah, Joey, thank you. I should have been looking at you instead of trying to look it up in their Twitter. But yeah, if they got the Arizona State center West as an unrestricted free agent, that's another really nice signing by the 49ers. I don't know if I would say that's telling us that Alex Mack is going to retire, but everything the 49ers have said points in that direction. Their moves so far during this process haven't said that, but their words or lack thereof is something that indicates to me that the 49ers are going to be moving on and not have Alex Mack next year. And, you know, if West is, and even if he comes back, the signing of West is a good thing. I thought, the 49ers, between West and Poe as a guard center prospect, I think West and Poe would be terrific guys to have be even backups behind Mack if he comes back. So I don't know if I would say necessarily that it's that the signing of West is a sign that the 49ers know they're not going to have Alex Mack. But one of the things when we went through this process, one of the things that I said repeatedly about the 49ers, and this is why I think some people were so high on it, the 49ers weren't going to get a starting center in the draft this year unless they took one in round 2, maybe 3. Maybe the kid out of Kentucky, Luca Fortner, would have been a starter, and he was kind of the last of the group that might be a starter this year, I think. But it was my thought process in getting a center was to have a guy that would be developed that could start in 2023. A guy like Donovan West, a guy like Jason Poe, if that's where they want him to play as inside at center. Those are signings that direct you towards 2023. To have an undrafted free agent start at center for the 49ers this year would be a big time surprise to me. But that's a very solid signing for sure. J10, thank you very much. He says, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, get over to 49ers Press Democrat for me, for Jack. I appreciate that. That's 100%. You guys can make that if you make the 49ers.pressdemocrat.com one of your favorites on your computer when you get to your internet on your browser, that'd be great. If you could just hit it up on a daily basis, it'd be much appreciated. A lot of good information over there and good comment section there as well. Celts Chronicles reporting that they also gave West $100,000 guaranteed. That's one of the other pieces too. When they start getting into these signings, these undrafted free agent signings, that guaranteed money becomes a bargaining chip. It's like recruiting in college, right? They're all, it's a free for all, but they unlike in college, you can pay your recruits in the NFL because everybody knows that they don't pay recruits in the college game, right? So yeah, that's a really good one. Donovan West, Leon O'Neal. Shoot, I'm happier with the undrafted free agents, and I had more. I had Jason Poe, I had Leon O'Neal. Those were two guys that I had on my mock drafts, and the 49ers get them as undrafted free agents, so that's pretty cool. Donovan West is a guy that I liked, but I felt better about some of the other guys. But for him to be the 49ers to be able to pick him up as an unrestricted undrafted free agent, that's a really good deal there as well. So pretty good. Mr. Honor here says, no, Mac isn't coming back. No, he's not. What's the point to play one more season with this trash offensive line as well as the Jimmy and Debo dramas? You might have something there, but I don't know. I think the Debo drama is going to be subsiding here now that the draft has passed and Jimmy Garoppolo is around, but he's going to pass. There's more drama, trust me. There's more drama for 49er fans who follow Twitter and follow us on YouTube than there is in the 49er locker room. Just being honest. If we're being honest here, and that's usually the way I try to roll, is that the drama that you see on Twitter and on YouTube when it comes to the 49ers is usually limited to those two spaces. So we'll see. I mean, I understand that there's some stuff with Deebo Samuel, and there's definitely some drama going on there. But I don't think that's something that goes beyond and leaks into the team. I think the Deebo thing, if the 49ers were to trade Deebo and they aren't able to re-sign him, that's something that will create a little bit of a distraction around the team, because that's a guy who 49er players John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have said this. Those players really like Deebo Samuel. They love Deebo Samuel. They love the heart that he brings to the team, and so those guys are rooting for him to be back on the roster. And so that's why just giving into it and trading him, and possibly not giving him the contract that he's looking for could be a problem. And we'll see the direction this takes. The whole thing there, the reports all along had been that the 49ers had troubles getting in contact with Deebo Samuel, that there had been communication, and that's been confirmed. That was confirmed by John Lynch earlier this week. It was confirmed last night by Kyle Shanahan that they haven't had any discussion, that he hasn't had a discussion in a little bit of time here when it comes to Deebo Samuel. But I think that everything's going to work out for the 49ers on that front as it comes through. Just where are we right now? We are not even to May. We're still in April. So, you've got to get to the end of July before training camp starts. So there's plenty of time. You're going to see more guys added to this roster and changes, and there's going to be re-signings and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll see where it goes. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And the 49ers, I think, this year are going to have an interesting season. They're transitioning quarterbacks. Trey Lance taking over at quarterback is going to be fun. I think the signing today, or the draft, of Brock Purdy, if anything, should signal to some people that the 49ers are moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Nate Sutfeld was given a $2 million guaranteed contract. He's going to be with the 49ers in 2022. Brock Purdy, I think, is going to be with the 49ers. I think you'll see him over on the practice squad, though. I think you're going to see the 49ers carry only 2 quarterbacks on their active roster and carry an extra defensive lineman or offensive or receiver or something, another guy somewhere else. And then like 427 says right here, Kyle Shanahan, if you're watching, and I know you are because you like to tune into my stuff especially, when you get to the fourth quarter, if it's a tight game, if it's a big game, make sure you give the ball to Deebo Samuel. Just give the ball to your best players. Phil Potts says, "Hey, Jack, I tweeted at Lynch a few times begging for Jason Poe. It worked. It did work. They were able to get him and bring him in and as an undrafted free agent, so that's really good." Sacktown Izzy says, "What's wrong with our punter and kicker?" They're all right. The field goal kicker is good from 45 yards, from 50 yards in. You get over 50 yards and things get a little bit sketchy. Wishnowski's okay. My only issue I have more of an issue with Wishnowski from a kickoff standpoint than I do from a punting standpoint. I would like to see him get the ball into the end zone more often. So that's the only problem that I have in their kicking department. Russell says, "I'm also on board. Deebo isn't going away. That drama is getting cold." I agree. It's still going to be drama. It's still going to be a topic of conversation. I'll bet you anybody who doesn't think that there's going to be that Deebo Samuel is going to be a hot topic this week. I'll bet you all a nickel, and I'll be a rich man by the end of Friday. Yan says, "I wish my name was." We can call you Sauce from now on if you want. Yan. From now on, when you I'm writing that down right now. From now on, when you comment, you are no longer going to be called Yan. If you send in a super chat, you are going to be known as Sauce. Okay, made that note right here. From now on, when Yan reaches out and he puts in a comment, especially if it's a super chat, he is going to be called Sauce. I got it right here. It's on my notes. And then because that's a good one. That's a good name, and I like that. One of the funny stories, was they asked him how much sauce is too much sauce, and he said you can't have too much sauce. There's no such thing as too much sauce. So, and Joey coming in, I think this could be a hotly contested debate over maybe this summertime will be is Mike Glennon a Hall of Fame level quarterback, and Mike Glennon is a guy who, I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame level quarterback, but if you want to base Hall of Fame quarterbacks off of neck size, Mike Glennon would be definitely in that conversation because that guy's got one of the longer necks in the NFL. That's for sure. Helps him, though. It's part of why he can see over the line of scrimmage so well. And then let's see what else we've got really quick. Lukey says the Eli Apple and Sauce Gardner, that would be a heck of a backfield because that would make that the applesauce backfield. I like that one. See, now we're getting into the bad dad jokes. So bad old guy jokes, I guess, because that's my kind of humor too, Lukey. So don't stop. I like those. So that last one really quick. Joey says, Mike Glennon, when we sign him, we'll have Niners fans saying, Joe who? Well, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I saw the picture today that Rita Oak drew. Jimmy Garoppolo rolling out to his right, it was day 87 of Jimmy Garoppolo not being traded. So it was Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the catch to Dwight Clark. The best way the best way she could have done that was instead of having Garoppolo throw it would have been Garoppolo in that position, but actually kind of turning around and the ball being thrown backwards, and then just Dwight Clark jumping with nothing and just kind of like his hand slowly coming down because he realizes that it's over. That would have been the way to go there. And then let's go to real quick. We've got Caesar says, hey, Jack, what's going to happen to Jimmy G? He's either going to get traded or released. He's not going to be on the 49ers. When they get to he's not going to be on the 49ers in July. Let's just go in that direction because this is a guy. The 49ers need that salary cap room, and it's just not going to happen. He's going to be gone. So he's either going to get traded or released. I still think that there's a possibility of him going to a team like Carolina or Houston. Never thought, Carolina didn't have a second or third round draft pick this year. They had to trade up to get that. So I think there's still a possibility to go there. Clarence asks, sum it up for me. Just got here. Are we trash or not? Nah, this team isn't trash. There's question marks along the offensive line. Those question marks primarily have to do with the fact that we haven't seen them. The folks in the media and outside fans haven't seen the way that some of these guys that are along the offensive line. We haven't seen Aaron Banks practice since the middle of training camp. Before he injured his shoulder against Kansas City in the first preseason game. So we don't know. If you want to take the 49ers word, unless you think that they're lying, unless you think that both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are lying. Aaron Banks is a guy who showed great improvement to them throughout the season. At one point, they felt like they were going to start him. 49ers then went on a roll, and they decided not to. But they think enough of him, and then. We know that Moore has potential. He's shown some things. I get the issue at center, and we'll see where we go. My thing with the 49ers is as long as they have the quarterback situated, they have a good enough roster everywhere else to make it to the playoffs. So, it's a lot to put on the shoulders of a first-year starter and Trey Lance, but there's a reason why you used 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick to get this guy. Now he needs to go out and play like it. So we'll see how it works out. Yeah, I agree on that one. Getting Poe and West as undrafted free agents. And even the fact that they got Jason Poe, Leon O'Neal, and Donovan West as undrafted free agents, those 3 make it huge. Those are 3 really good signings for the 49ers as undrafted free agents, I think. Agree, Kelts. But this doesn't sell. This doesn't what people want to hear. Nobody wants to believe this, that this team is stacked. And they are. They're very good. They have a lot of really good players across the board.
It's a really good team. The depth at center is a little bit of a question mark. The depth on the interior, I get the questions. And again, it's just because we haven't seen them. I think if the 49ers felt like they really needed to make a move, they wouldn't have waited until, what was it? Pick number 134 and pick number 187 to address the offensive line, or undrafted free agency to address offensive linemen. I think if the 49ers felt like they needed to get somebody, they would have done some things around 61 or higher if they felt like they really needed to make a move. So I think this is a team that's pretty talented, and that's for sure. So, yeah, and Rainey jumping in saying, sign Donovan West, let's go. See, people are really excited. Jason Poe, Tay Martin, Jeremiah Gamel, Taylor Hawkins, Segun Olube, Tasir Mack, Leon O'Neal Jr., Donovan West, Sam Schluter. This is a really good group of undrafted free agents that the 49ers picked up. It'll be interesting to see how many of those guys make it. So, been on here for about an hour. I really appreciate y'all coming on. What we're gonna, I will be continuing to bring you coverage of the draft, and I'll be coming back probably with with my grades for the draft, most likely on Monday. Things have been a little different with my schedule the last couple of weeks, guys coming and going and so on. But I hope to have Monday with the Hammerhead show on Monday with Rob Shue, and then get back to the normal process, the normal, Monday with Rob, Tuesday with Sunil, Thursday with Jesse again for the Hammer and Nails and so on. So keep it locked in here to the channel. We're gonna have a lot of good content for you. And the other thing too is that I have the all 22 college film now. I got it. And now that we have the picks, I've been telling you that I was going to do those film breakdowns. You guys have been asking me for film breakdowns. I kept telling you to hold off because I didn't want to go through a million guys in the as far as the prospects, because it was just such a shot in the dark this year compared to last year. So keep it locked into the channel. We'll have some film breakdowns of Drake Jackson. You'll see some Tyrion Davis-Price, Danny Gray, Spencer Burford, Samuel Womack, Nick Zackel, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro Fields, and Brock Purdy. You're going to see those breakdowns coming now between now and before the summer starts. So keep it locked in here. Thank you all for joining. Make sure you like the show if you liked what you saw. And if you liked it, make sure you subscribe if you're already subscribed to the channel. Hit that little bell notification so that you don't miss when we go live. Get yourselves over to 49ersdemocrat.com. I appreciate everybody that takes the time to show up. We had a really great group in here today. If we can keep this up throughout the offseason, it'd be fantastic. I understand with the draft, this is a time right now where everybody's locked in with 49er football for this weekend. So I really appreciate you showing up. Now go out and have a great Saturday night. Have a good Sunday, and I will be back with you for sure on Monday. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.